The Real Deal Show. Brought to you by eBodyboarding.com and Tribe Boards.
What's happening, everybody? This is Jay Reale, along with Pierre Louis Costas. Welcome,
Jay?
Pierre. He's here at the eBodyboarding.com headquarters. And if you remember, and if you don't remember, I will put a link at the top to the interview I did with Pierre on Gran Canaria a couple years ago, where we talked about his kind of life history and his journey in the sport of bodyboarding. But today, specifically, he's on a time crunch situation right now. We just had a surf this morning, and Pierre has many adventures to cram into just 2 or 3 days here. So we're going to get to some questions I posed on our Instagram. Anyone who had a question for Pierre, pitch it to me in a DM, and we will read these off to him and have him answer the question. So we will just get straight into it, and then I have a few other questions for you because I, again, know your time crunch. So we have a question. We'll start with Stephen Michael asks, when you are going for an air, do you find a guided point in the face of the wave, or is it a timing maneuver? In other words, are you trying to just wait for the wave to do something and then you hit it, or do you have a point on the wave as you take off you already know you're going to hit it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay. It depends of the wave quality, but it's like a moving skate park, you know.
Yes.
So I always look for ramps. I was always attracted by the air game, you know, and it's something you just have to, works better with experience, you know, like you know exactly which kind of section you're looking at, but I know now exactly the kind of section I want, you know. Depends if I want to do backflip out of the ball, if I want to do an air forward, if I want to do a reverse on the closing out section. Depends on a lot of things, but I think the key is, you know, never too late, never too early, is the timing. And the timing comes by the wave just about to form itself. It doesn't matter the section. So it's like about to form.
Okay. I like what you said about moving skate park, because our sport is very unique in that, unlike other sports where the playing surface is static, doesn't move, doesn't change, tennis, football, whatever.
Yeah.
Our sport, the playing surface constantly changes.
Yep.
And part of the ability to adapt to that changing surface is what makes a good wave rider, I think. Would you agree?
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that's the beauty of our sport. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all do. I agree, man. Okay, so we have more questions. Let's see. Somebody else posed a question here. Is it Carlos? Okay, so Carlos is asking, how much more time do you think you'll continue to compete at the level you're competing? I asked you this a couple years ago. I'm sure you get it all the time. And to me, you're very young. You're 35. Now, I retired at that age, but things are much different now.
Yeah.
Guys like yourself are still at the top of your game into your 40s and sometimes beyond.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's like it doesn't really. It has to do with my physique, obviously, my health, and if I can, you know, perform. But it has to do a lot with my mental, you know, my mental strength.
Sure.
About when it comes to competition, it's a different question than when it comes to surf. I think I will surf all my life until I can't, you know. I'm 100% sure of that. But when it comes to competition, what I realize is if I am able to learn how to lose, you know, like to swallow every defeat and just understand that there's just positive coming out of it.
Yeah.
That's the key to longevity. I think the key to longevity, and it's one of the harder things in the sport, is to be able to like understand that you're working in the right direction, and it's very important to don't, you know, like, because you obviously like lose way more than you win, you know, in bodyboarding. And when you get older, it's harder to like, it's harder to accept. But if I can, and I think the last few years I've been working on that, in being in a position that I should be happy, I should be proud of myself, just being in that situation when I can when I can have a man-on-man hit with a guy like Tanner McDaniel or Tristan Roberts, just to be in that position and being able to be fit enough to try to beat them, it's something that I should be proud of. So the key for me is going to be to be able to tell my mind it's okay to lose, keep going.
Yeah, excuse me, and always looking forward.
Yeah.
I think, because if you dwell on a loss, that can really stick in your mind moving forward to the next event. You just want to forget about that and move on and think about the next contest and have nothing else on your mind. And along those lines, Pierre, you're current world number 2.
Yeah.
And you were number 2 at the end of the tour last year.
Still there.
Yes, and you, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, 7 times you have been number 2 on the world tour, and twice you were world champion, which to me is the most impressive competitive record probably ever in the sport. But it reminds me, back in my day, it was Mike Stewart and Ben Severson on the U.S. tour in particular, and those two constantly battled back and forth. Usually Ben ended up in second, but sometimes he was in first. But he carried on and didn't give up.
Yeah.
And you have had a career that began, I believe, 2004 at Sintra was your first event as a professional bodyboarder.
Yeah.
And that was that was 2004, right? Your first pro event. Yeah, so that's 21 years ago.
Yeah.
A 21-year career in the sport of bodyboarding, which is a very youthful sport, or at least it used to be, is unbelievable. I mean, do you still have the fire for competition that you had all the way back then?
Yeah, it's a different fire, but it's there. It's there. I've been through phases, but I can say today, I don't know, I feel like I don't know, have that fire again, which is so important to have, because it's true. When that fire stops, maybe all of a sudden I will want to stop, but I want to keep that fire going. And it's like 2004 was my first professional event. A lot of second places, like you said. The funny part about the second places is not a rivalry with someone else. Is I got second behind Morey's first world title, Ian Campbell, Jared Houston, Tristan Robert, Tannen McDaniel, Armid Soliveres. So their first world title, I was second. So I had to battle with so many guys, you know. It was like one rival. It was like I'm trying, like, look, I just, you know, like you win one and you're like, okay, I'm going to try to beat that guy. There's always a new guy. So it's great for the sport as well. You know, it shows that the sport is not just about one guy, that it's a hard sport, that there's a lot of different world champions, which I think is great. But yeah, I'm trying to get a third one, because for like 2 years in a row, like 2014 and 15, I was second. And those one was hard to swallow, because I was so close.
Yes.
And the fact that I won in 2016 was a relief. And I put a lot of work into that first one, into that second one, way more than the first one. So since that, I got like another 3 second places. Yeah. So I'm trying. I'm really trying hard.
Well,
that's a fire, you know, that is still inside.
Yeah. Well, that's great, because your first world title, 2011. Yeah. That's a long time ago. It's 14 years ago, and your second world title was in 2016, 9 years ago, and you are still world number 2. That's unbelievable. Now, I know the first event on the tour this year was in Morocco, which holds a special place to you, because that's kind of part of your roots. You did live in Morocco for a time, and you were so close, right? Yeah. I mean, that had to be a heartbreaker for you, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It was a heartbreaker. I think that was the toughest loss since maybe 2019, when I lost the world title, you know. That one was like in my hand. Like you say, Morocco holds a special place in my heart. Yeah. There hasn't been many competitions in Africa. There's been like 4 events in the history of the sport. And that is the only continent that I didn't win a world tour event. So I had this in my mind. Everything was going so well. My surfing was getting better through heats, and in the final, everything was going my way. And one little mistake. I don't know if you can call it a mistake, because it obviously was. But things that I've learned, you know, like competing, is like when you hold priority and there's a little bit of time left, and you can control something, you know, you can control. It's your wave.
Right.
Do I go or I don't? But you're doing something. You're controlling that moment. You cannot control that there's going to be a wave at the back. The guy's going to perform. Is he going to land his move? That's the things that you cannot control. You know, I don't know that. But what I know is I can use my priority. But obviously the wave wasn't good, and everything, the worst that could have happened. He needed a 9. He got a 10 and it was like no more time left.
So this was a wave that you passed up. You had priority, and Uri
No. Well, I said, like I said, I took the decision before he took that wave to use my priority on the way worst wave. So that was a mistake. Yeah. So it's always hard when you lose in the end. You know, when you control the heat for 28 minutes and the last two,
well, anyone who's competed for a living,
they are the hardest. And yeah, that would have been nice to win because they are only like 4 events. I know I'm conscious, or 4 or 5. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay,
I'll survive.
Well, I mean, nobody thinks any less of you because you got second in that event. Your legacy in this sport is well beyond competition, in my opinion. And, you know, you kind of focused on your life story in your movie, Tender, which is on YouTube.
Yeah.
So go check that out, folks, if you want to see this guy, his life story, and how unbelievably talented he is on a bodyboard. And really, that's above and beyond competition. So competition is just one small part of your legacy in the sport. Which brings me to the next question that we had. This is again from Carlos. He says, any new maneuvers that you're working on?
I have moves in my mind that the only thing, the hardest in our sport is like the opportunities you have, you know. There's one that I have in my mind that I prefer keep it on the low because I might never do it. I don't know. But I'll try to find functionality. Sometimes when I see what surfers can do in wave pool, I'm always thinking if we could have a bigger wedge in the wave pool, the sport will change so much. Like in terms of innovation, because the hardest is to find the opportunity to. And once you have it, usually you just want to be satisfied. You want to do like a big air reverse, maybe try 720. But some of those new moves, they don't come to your head instantly. You know. It's like a fraction of a second to think about it. So, yeah, it's in this way. Yeah, it's surfing and bodyboarding are probably the most frustrating sport because of that. Because you're always a moving element. But let's see. If not, I'm sure the new generation will find a new move.
Well, you know, I think you have many years left to explore that because we look at two guys that I have a lot of respect for, Dave and Jeff Hubbard. Yeah. Jeff is right about 50 years old now, and Dave is coming up to his mid-40s, and they are both, again, at the top of their game. And you're a long way from there. You're 35 years old as we record this in April of 2025. And I mean, that's you're just getting started as far as I'm concerned.
I'm just getting started.
The thing about it is
let's give it a shot.
Well, you still have the physical ability to do it, but you have the advantage of experience.
Yeah.
And I find in my surfing life, as the older I get, the more I know about waves.
Yeah.
Just being out in a session and maybe a wave comes and it goes past me, sometimes I'll look and watch the wave peel, and I'll make mental notes of myself. Okay, if I see another wave in that position, I know how it's going to peel off.
Yeah.
And that just gets better and better with age. You just gain more and more knowledge. So
100%.
Yeah, so look for this guy to bust some crazy new maneuver sometime soon. And it may be here in California in the next couple of days. We'll see. So look for footage of that coming out pretty soon. Okay, so he asked about new maneuvers. Let's kind of wrap things up here because I know you got to go soon with your deal with Morey bodyboards. How did this come about? Because we know you were associated with another brand for many, many years.
Yes.
And Morey in Europe was kind of a separate deal. It was through Legacy Bodyboarding.
Yeah.
And did they approach you, or was it the Morey USA folks that approached you?
I would say it was just a combination of detail, of consequences, I would say, because the fact that, so to make it short, Legacy is run by some of my best friends.
Okay.
Like Jeremy Arnoux, Nico Padua, and Mathieu de Safi. Mathieu de Safi is the owner of Sen, he's a sponsor of mine. Jeremy Arnoux is an incredible bodyboarder. He used to be my team manager for the previous brand. And Nico Padua is the owner of the surf school I write for. So they're a group of friends, and as friends, they decided to create Legacy. And one of the first things they did is ask the license to Morey to produce boards, quality boards with the vintage logo, kind of as a celebration of bodyboarding. And that was the beginning. And it worked out great. The second year worked even better. And that's when I think big boss of Morey started to like understand that there's something we can do about it. You know, like we like what you guys are doing. We want to be part of, and we would like to have a main rider. Morey hasn't have a main rider for a long time, and I think it worked out great. And it was, for me, I was in a very comfortable situation, you know, with my previous sponsor, and leaving was not something that I thought about until I realized the opportunity I could have. Obviously, it was a dream, you know, like Morey and Churchill are the most prestigious brand in the world, and it's like, obviously that caught my attention, obviously, but it was like, after that I got to meet, you know, like through Skype calls, all the team, you know, here in the States. Jeremy was obviously making all the connection, but yeah, and to be honest, like, okay, I was like, I'm not gonna leave, you know, my previous sponsor until on like if you're not giving me that.
Yeah.
And they accepted, basically. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So
and the good thing is, you know, there was a lot of chatter online about Morey bodyboards and how things had changed with the ownership.
Yeah.
And my friend Patty Serrano, who was involved with Tom Morey at the very beginning, kind of arranged a sit down with the Morey family and the owners of the brand now.
Yeah.
And kind of, you know, they kind of hashed it out and figured it all out. Yeah. And they got their blessing.
Yeah,
you know?
like what happened with every company in the world, like people kind of have to, people need to understand it's like, and I learned after that, the company that owns Morey is a huge company.
Yeah.
And those kind of company go through a lot of changes within the company.
Yep.
You know, like I went from like working with 3 people to working with 14 to 15 people for almost the same, you know, thing. And the new brand director, Terence, that you know, is the reason why I think I moved to Morey. He's young, he has well intention, and he believed in the project. You know, he was very like, because the most important thing here was to invest it back into the core part of the sport. You know, obviously Morey is, especially in the States, because outside the States, for us, Morey was just kind of disappear.
Yeah.
You know, but here in the States, it was like the image got to be a little bit worse because of the decisions. And what we're trying to do now, and it's been working incredibly, like in 1 year, because Morey and BZ and Churchill are the same team, and Luna's been running for BZ. Churchill has a new ambassador. So it's so important to invest back into the core sport. And now that's exactly what they're doing by signing me, by signing young athletes. And that's just the beginning. I think they want to really go back and try to be number one again. And yeah, I want to help them.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you're right. The brand was tarnished for a while, and they recognized it. The Lin family, who's kind of at the helm of the brand now, BZ, Morey, Churchill, they recognized what they needed to do to bring it back to its glory, or its original glory days.
Glory is a good name, yeah.
And, you know, I love that they're getting back into it with a person like you who's so prominent in the sport of bodyboarding. And some of the young riders, I got to meet Vincent, am I saying his name right? The little guy from Portugal who's tiny, and he's riding these little mini boards and he's ripping. And so, you know, it reminds me of the early days of Morey. They're getting back to the core of the sport and trying to support the brand from the bottom up like they used to back in the day. So, and they're making good decisions, putting the Malaysian rubber on the fins.
Yeah, they listen. They're super open to like make all the brands better. So it's been really good to work with people that you know trust your wisdom. I would say your experience.
Yeah. Well, and they have feedback from guys like yourself how to, you know, change designs or improve the brand's visibility in the sport. So great to see. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, folks. That is Pierre Louis Costas. We wish you the best of luck this year. Yeah, on the tour. I may be at an event doing commentary at some point this year. I look forward to seeing you. Maybe it'll be Fronton at the end of the tour.
That would be great.
Which is always fun. You know, that's I mean, I think I've heard you say your favorite wave in the world, right?
It is, yeah.
And that place is a formidable bitch of a wave if you're on the wrong end of the lip.
That's true.
But yeah, just one final question, because you said that's your favorite wave in the world. Yeah. Other than that, do you have another favorite?
Yeah, I like pipeline.
Okay.
Yeah, the crowd is heavy, but as a wave, you know, the right and left amazing. You have there.
Yeah.
Pipe is sick. I love Nazare as well. As a beach break, it's my favorite beach break.
Yeah. Well, we saw some clips of you from Super Tubos.
Yeah, Super Tubos is sick too.
Recently. Yeah. That was when the WSL was there, right?
Yeah,
around that time?
Close, yeah, to that time.
So many good waves in Portugal. And your son, is he a bodyboarder now?
He bodyboards a little bit. He's more of a soccer player.
Okay.
He wants to be a goalkeeper.
Goalkeeper, is he tall? Because you're not that tall.
Yeah.
Because most goalkeepers, they have...
Especially nowadays, yeah. We'll see. I don't know. It's hard to tell. He's so young. He's 7, so I'm not too sure. But I think he will be taller than me.
Okay, so look out for him in the European League in about 15 years.
Yeah.
Folks, we're stoked to talk to
Thanks, man.
Pierre once again, and we're going to post this up. And if you watched on YouTube, give us the thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you listen on the audio podcast, hope you enjoyed that, folks. I'm going to put some links down in the description there for your camp in Portugal. If anyone wants to sign up and go surf with Pierre in Portugal, you can do that. And that link below will have all the info. We'll also have a link on there so you can buy this stuff on our website. That's the PLC Churchills in the Mach 7. So look out for all that stuff, folks. And as always, we will see you in the surf.
The real deal.
You know it, buddy.